Picture this: the vast emptiness of the Sahara at twilight, where golden sand meets the deepest blue of evening sky. The wind whispers secrets that have been buried for millennia. And there, rising from the desert floor like dreams made of stone, stand the pyramids of Giza, eternal guardians of mysteries we're only beginning to understand. Tonight, we journey back through the mists of time, to when these monuments were not ancient wonders but bold dreams in the minds of kings and builders. We'll walk alongside the pharaohs who dared to reach toward the heavens, and the countless souls who turned their vision into reality, one stone at a time. If this journey speaks to you, you might want to subscribe. Now, let the world around you fade away. Dim the lights. Close your eyes. Let your breathing slow. Tonight, you are not just listening to a story, you are witnessing the birth of eternity itself. The desert is calling, and the ancient ones are waiting to share their secrets. Let us begin. The morning sun breaks across the Nile Delta like liquid gold spilling from the god's own chalice. It is the year 2670 BCE, and the land of Egypt pulses with the rhythm of the great river. In Memphis, the capital city where the scent of lotus blossoms mingles with the smoke of countless cooking fires, a young pharaoh named Djoser awakens with visions dancing behind his eyes. But these are not ordinary dreams. They are dreams of stone and sky, of monuments that will outlast the stars themselves. As he stands on the palace balcony, watching the sun paint the horizon in shades of amber and rose, Djoser feels the weight of destiny settling upon his shoulders like a mantle woven from the very fabric of time. The wind carries whispers from the desert, ancient voices speaking of immortality, of ways to cheat death and touch the realm of the gods. For weeks now, these visions have haunted him. Not the traditional mastaba tomb of his ancestors, those low rectangular structures that seem to huddle close to the earth in humility. No, Djoser sees something else entirely. He sees steps ascending toward heaven, a ladder of stone that will carry his soul to the eternal realms. In the cool shadows of the palace, he summons his most trusted advisor, a man whose name will echo through history alongside his own, Imhotep. The vizier approaches with the measured steps of one who has spent his life balancing the practical with the impossible. His eyes, dark as the Nile at midnight, hold the spark of genius that Djoser has come to rely upon. "My lord," Imhotep says, his voice carrying the gentle authority of one who has seen the rise and fall of kingdoms. The morning light brings clarity to the mind. What vision troubles your sleep? Djoser turns from the balcony, his young face already bearing the marks of kingship, the weight of responsibility etched in the lines around his eyes, the burden of an entire civilization resting upon his shoulders. "I dream of more than life, Imhotep. I dream of forever." The conversation that follows unfolds like the petals of a night-blooming flower. Djoser speaks of his vision, a tomb unlike any the world has ever seen, rising in steps toward the heavens. Each level would be smaller than the last, creating a sacred mountain of stone that would serve as a cosmic ladder for the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. Imhotep listens with the patience of a man who has learned to hear the voice of possibility even in the wildest dreams. He has always been more than a vizier. He is an architect of the impossible, a physician who heals not just bodies, but the very concept of what can be achieved. As Djoser speaks, Imhotep's mind begins to work, calculating angles and weights, envisioning the logistics of turning divine inspiration into earthly reality. "The site," Imhotep murmurs, his voice barely above a whisper. "It must be Saqqara, the sacred necropolis where the ancient kings rest. There, on the plateau that overlooks the capital, we could build your stairway to the gods." As the weeks pass, the plans take shape. The step pyramid will rise in 6 distinct levels, each one a world unto itself, each one bringing the pharaoh closer to the stars. The base will be vast, 545 feet from north to south, 401 feet from east to west. The finished monument will stand 203 feet tall, dwarfing every structure that has come before it. But size is not the only innovation. Imhotep envisions something unprecedented. The entire pyramid will be built of stone. Not the mud brick and timber of traditional construction, but limestone blocks cut from the living rock of the earth itself. It is a decision that will require thousands of workers, revolutionary engineering techniques, and a level of precision that has never been attempted before. The pharaoh's court buzzes with excitement and apprehension. Some whisper that such ambition will anger the gods, that mortals should not attempt to build their own mountains. Others speak of the practical impossibilities. How can so much stone be quarried, transported, and lifted into place? The project will require not just workers, but an entire civilization bent to a single, impossible dream. Yet Djoser remains unmoved by the doubts. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the palace sleeps and the Nile whispers its eternal secrets, he stands again on his balcony and feels the pull of eternity. The dream is no longer his alone. It has become a living thing, a force that demands to be born into the world. The papyrus scrolls spread across Imhotep's table like fallen leaves, each one covered with precise hieroglyphs and geometric calculations that would challenge the greatest minds of any age. The oil lamps flicker in the pre-dawn darkness, casting dancing shadows that seem to bring the architectural drawings to life. This is the hour when genius works best, in the quiet space between night and day, when the mind can focus on the impossible without the distractions of the waking world. Imhotep's hands move with the precision of a master craftsman, his reed pen scratching across the papyrus as he refines the design that will change the world. He is not just an architect. He is a mathematician, an engineer, a physicist before such words exist. The step pyramid that lives in his mind is a symphony of stone, each block precisely calculated to support the tremendous weight above it. The challenge is unlike anything attempted before. Traditional mastaba tombs rely on the strength of mud brick and the wisdom of centuries-old techniques. But Djoser's vision demands something revolutionary, a structure of solid stone that will rise higher than any building in the world, its weight distributed across 6 ascending levels that must remain stable for eternity. The first problem is the foundation. The limestone plateau of Saqqara seems solid enough, but Imhotep knows that appearances can deceive. The weight of the finished pyramid will be enormous, over 850,000 tons of stone pressing down upon the earth. Every calculation must be perfect, every measurement exact. A single error could bring the entire structure crashing down, turning the pharaoh's dream of immortality into a monument to human folly. Working by lamplight, Imhotep sketches the underground chambers that will honeycomb the pyramid's interior. These are not simple burial rooms, but an entire subterranean palace where the pharaoh's spirit will dwell for eternity. The main burial chamber will lie 90 feet below ground, accessible only through a complex network of corridors and shafts that will confuse tomb robbers while providing the pharaoh's soul with multiple paths to the afterlife. But it is the exterior design that truly showcases Imhotep's genius. The 6 steps of the pyramid are not merely decorative, they are a sophisticated engineering solution to the problem of building with stone. Each level is built as a separate mastaba, with its own internal structure and support system. The levels are then fitted together like the pieces of a vast puzzle, creating a monument that is both architecturally sound and symbolically perfect. The symbolism is crucial. The step pyramid is not just a tomb, it is a cosmic diagram, a 3-dimensional map of the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. Each level represents one of the heavenly realms through which the king's soul must pass. The eastern face of the pyramid is aligned with the rising sun, ensuring that the pharaoh will be reborn each morning with Ra, the sun god, The entire structure is oriented to the cardinal directions with a precision that will not be matched for thousands of years. As dawn breaks over the Nile, bringing the first light to Imhotep's workshop, the architect allows himself a moment of satisfaction. The plans are complete, the calculations verified and re-verified. But he knows that the real work is just beginning. Turning a vision into reality will require the mobilization of an entire civilization. The limestone cliffs of Tura stretch along the eastern bank of the Nile like sleeping giants, their faces weathered by millennia of wind and water into smooth cream-colored walls that gleam in the morning sun. For countless generations, these cliffs have stood silent, their stone hearts beating only to the rhythm of the seasons. But now, in the third year of Djoser's reign, they are about to be awakened by the sound of copper chisels and the songs of workers who will carve the pharaoh's dream from the living rock. The quarrymaster, a weathered man named Kiti, whose hands bear the scars of a lifetime spent working stone, stands at the base of the cliff as the sun paints the sky in shades of gold and amber. His eyes, sharp as the tools of his trade, survey the rock face with the practiced gaze of one who can read stone like a scribe reads hieroglyphs. He sees not just limestone, but the future, blocks that will rise in perfect steps toward the heavens, each one cut with the precision that befits a pharaoh's eternal resting place. The work begins before dawn, when the air is still cool and the stone has not yet absorbed the punishing heat of the Egyptian sun. The quarrymen arrive in the pre-dawn darkness, their footsteps creating small clouds of dust that catch the starlight like scattered diamonds. They carry the tools of their ancient trade, copper chisels tempered to a hardness that can bite into solid rock, wooden mallets whose rhythmic pounding will soon create a symphony of industry, and leather bags filled with the small wooden wedges that will split the stone along its natural grain. The limestone of Tura is perfect for the pharaoh's pyramid. It is dense enough to support enormous weight, yet soft enough to be worked with the tools available to the ancient craftsman. Most importantly, it contains the natural fracture lines that will allow the quarrymen to extract blocks of uniform size, each one measuring approximately 4 feet long, 3 feet wide, and 2 feet high. These dimensions are not arbitrary. They represent the perfect balance between weight and workability, large enough to create a stable structure, yet small enough to be moved by human hands. The quarrying process is both art and science. The master quarrymen begin by studying the rock face, reading the subtle signs that reveal the stone's hidden structure. They look for the natural joints and bedding planes that will guide their cuts, the invisible lines of weakness that can be exploited to extract perfect blocks with minimal waste. A skilled quarryman can hear the stone, tapping it with his chisel to detect the hollow sounds that indicate flaws or the solid ring that promises good, workable rock. The actual cutting begins with the careful marking of the block boundaries. Using strings and plumb lines, the quarrymen create a grid on the rock face, each square representing a single block that will eventually find its place in the pyramid. The precision is remarkable. Blocks must be cut to tolerances measured in finger widths, their surfaces smooth enough to fit together without gaps, their angles exact enough to ensure the pyramid's perfect geometry. The cutting itself is a process of infinite patience. The quarrymen work in teams, one man holding the copper chisel while another strikes it with the wooden mallet. The sound echoes off the cliff face in a steady rhythm, ping, 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 like a metallic heartbeat that marks the slow birth of the pyramid. Each blow removes only a small chip of stone, but gradually over hours and days the chisel cuts deepen until they meet the natural fracture lines that will release the block. The wooden wedges are the secret to the quarryman's success. These small triangular pieces of wood, cut from the hardest timber available, are driven into the chisel cuts and then soaked with water. As the wood swells, it exerts tremendous pressure on the stone, forcing it to split along the predetermined lines. The process is slow but certain. nature's own hydraulic system harnessed to serve the pharaoh's will. When a block is finally free, the moment is almost magical. The massive stone, which has been part of the cliff face for millions of years, suddenly becomes an individual entity, a building block for immortality. The quarrymen gather around their achievement, their faces showing the quiet satisfaction of skilled craftsmen who have conquered the stone without breaking it, who have freed it from its ancient prison without destroying its essential nature. The Nile runs silver in the pre-dawn light, its surface broken only by the gentle wake of the great barges that drift downstream like floating temples. These are no ordinary vessels. They are the ships of destiny, carrying the limestone blocks that will become the pharaoh's stairway to eternity. Each barge groans under the weight of its precious cargo, the massive stones arranged in perfect rows that seem to mirror the ordered ranks of the pyramid itself. The journey from the quarries of Tura to the building site at Saqqara is more than mere transportation. It is a sacred procession, a river pilgrimage that carries the raw materials of immortality from their ancient resting place to their eternal home. The barges move with the stately grace of a royal cortege, their passage marked by the rhythmic chanting of the crews and the soft splash of long wooden oars that guide them through the life-giving waters of the Nile. At the head of the procession, the lead barge carries more than stone. It bears the hopes and dreams of an entire civilization. The crew, bronzed by years of working on the river, move with the practiced efficiency of men who know that their cargo is more valuable than gold. Each block has been blessed by the priests, each stone marked with the hieroglyphs that will guide it to its proper place in the pyramid. They are not just moving building materials, they are transporting the physical embodiment of divine will. The riverbank is lined with spectators who have come to witness this remarkable sight. Children run alongside the barges, their laughter mixing with the work songs of the crews. Old men sit in the shade of date palms, nodding their approval at the precision of the operation. Women carrying water jars pause in their morning routines to watch the parade of stone that will outlast them all. The entire population of the Nile Valley seems to understand that they are witnessing something unprecedented, a moment when human ambition takes on the permanence of rock. The logistics of the operation are staggering. Each barge can carry approximately 20 limestone blocks, their combined weight pushing the vessels to the very limits of their design. The boats ride low in the water, their hulls straining against the tremendous load, their crews working with the careful precision of men who know that a single mistake could send precious cargo to the bottom of the river. The blocks are secured with ropes and wooden braces, each one positioned to distribute the weight evenly and prevent the vessel from capsizing in the river's gentle currents. The journey downstream takes most of the day, the barges moving at the stately pace that the river itself sets. There is no hurry. The stones have waited millions of years to fulfill their destiny, and a few more hours will make no difference. The crews use the time to check their cargo, tightening ropes and adjusting the position of blocks that have shifted during the voyage. Every precaution is taken to ensure that the pharaoh's pyramid stones arrive at Saqqara in perfect condition. The arrival at Saqqara is a moment of controlled chaos. The harbor specially built for the pyramid project teams, with activity as the barges are guided to their berths by crews of skilled river pilots. The limestone blocks must be unloaded with the same care with which they were loaded, each stone lifted from the barge using wooden cranes and rope systems that represent the cutting edge of ancient technology. The unloading process is a marvel of coordination. Teams of workers labor in perfect synchronization, their movements choreographed like a sacred dance. The blocks are lifted from the barges and placed on wooden sledges that will carry them to the pyramid site. Each movement is deliberate, each action calculated to prevent damage to the precious cargo. The stones that will form the pharaoh's eternal resting place must arrive at the building site in perfect condition, ready to be fitted into the grand design with the precision that befits a work of divine inspiration. The plateau of Saqqara spreads before them like a vast canvas waiting for the artist's brush, its limestone surface gleaming pale gold in the morning sun. Here on this sacred ground where the ancient kings of Memphis have slept for generations, the greatest building project in human history is about to begin. The desert wind whispers across the open space, carrying with it the scent of hot stone and the distant sound of the Nile flowing through the valley below. The site has been chosen with the precision that marks every aspect of Imhotep's design. The location is not arbitrary. It sits on the highest point of the plateau, visible from Memphis and aligned with the cardinal directions with an accuracy that will not be matched for thousands of years. From here, the pharaoh's pyramid will command the entire landscape, its stepped silhouette rising like a mountain built by gods against the endless blue of the Egyptian sky. The ground itself tells a story of meticulous preparation. For months, teams of workers have labored to create a perfectly level foundation, removing every irregularity in the limestone bedrock and filling any depressions with carefully fitted stones. The foundation is more than just a base. It is the anchor that will hold the pyramid steady against the weight of ages, the solid beginning from which the pharaoh's dream will rise toward the heavens. The first stone waits in the center of the prepared site, its surfaces gleaming with the perfection that only master craftsmen can achieve. This is not just any block, it is the cornerstone, the foundation upon which all else will rest. The limestone has been cut with such precision that its edges are sharp enough to cut papyrus. Its face is so smooth that they seem to have been polished by the gods themselves. Hieroglyphs carved into its surface identify it as the first offering to eternity, the initial step in the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. The ceremony begins at dawn, when the first rays of the sun touch the eastern edge of the plateau. Pharaoh Djoser himself is present, his golden crown catching the light as he stands beside the cornerstone. The royal regalia cannot disguise the emotion on his face. This is the moment when his impossible dream becomes tangible reality. Beside him, Imhotep holds the tools of his trade, the measuring rod and plumb line that will guide the placement of every stone in the pyramid. The priests of Memphis have come to bless the undertaking, their white linen robes fluttering in the desert breeze as they perform the ancient rituals that will ensure the gods' favor. Incense rises from bronze censers, filling the air with the sweet scent of frankincense and myrrh. The chanting of the priests mingles with the whisper of the wind, creating a sound that seems to come from the very stones themselves. The actual placement of the cornerstone is a moment of breathtaking precision. The massive block, weighing nearly 3 tons, must be positioned with an accuracy measured in finger widths. Teams of workers use wooden levers and rope systems to lift and guide the stone, their movements synchronized with the precision of a sacred dance. Every action is deliberate, every adjustment calculated to ensure that the cornerstone sits in perfect alignment with Imhotep's design. As the cornerstone settles into its final position, a hush falls over the assembled crowd. This is the moment of truth, the instant when theory becomes practice, when the dream of a pharaoh becomes the reality of stone. Imhotep steps forward with his measuring instruments, checking and rechecking the position of the block. The measurements must be perfect, for this single stone will determine the accuracy of everything that follows. The architect's satisfaction is evident in the smile that spreads across his weathered face. The cornerstone is positioned with mathematical perfection, its surfaces level within the width of a hair, its orientation aligned with the cardinal directions with a precision that would challenge modern surveyors. The pyramid has begun, and it has begun perfectly. The sun has not yet painted the eastern horizon when the first work songs begin to echo across the Saqqara plateau. The sound rises from the pyramid site like morning mist, dozens of voices blending in the ancient rhythms that have coordinated human labor since the first stones were lifted by the first builders. These are not just songs. They are the heartbeat of the construction, the musical framework that transforms thousands of individual workers into a single coordinated organism capable of moving mountains. The pyramid site at dawn is a marvel of organized chaos. Hundreds of workers stream toward their assigned positions, their movements guided by a system of organization that would impress modern project managers. Each man knows his role, his team, his section of the great work. The master builders have divided the construction into manageable segments, each one supervised by foremen who have spent years learning the intricate dance of stone and mortar that will raise the pyramid block by block. The transportation of blocks from the harbor to the pyramid site has evolved into a science of its own. The wooden sledges, each one capable of carrying a single limestone block, move in a continuous procession along the prepared roadway. Teams of 20 men are assigned to each sledge, their efforts coordinated by the rhythmic chanting of their leader. The work songs serve multiple purposes. They help the men pull in unison, they maintain morale during the back-breaking labor, and they preserve the ancient wisdom of construction techniques passed down through generations of builders. The road itself is a masterpiece of ancient engineering. The surface has been prepared with layers of stone chips and sand, creating a firm foundation that will not give way under the tremendous weight of the limestone blocks. Wooden rollers are positioned at regular intervals, allowing the sledges to roll rather than slide, reducing the friction and making the work more efficient. The gradient of the road has been calculated to allow the teams to maintain their rhythm without exhausting themselves, rising gradually from the river valley to the plateau in a series of gentle inclines. At the pyramid site, the arrival of each sledge is a moment of careful choreography. The blocks must be unloaded and positioned with the precision that befits a work of divine inspiration. Teams of skilled workers use wooden levers and rope systems to lift the massive stones from the sledges and guide them to their designated positions. The leverage systems are marvels of ancient technology, wooden beams that can multiply human strength by factors of 10 or more, allowing relatively small teams to move blocks weighing several tons. The actual placement of each block is where the true artistry of ancient construction becomes apparent. The stonemasons who guide this process are master craftsmen whose skills have been honed by years of experience. They can read the subtle variations in the limestone, identify the natural grain of the stone, and predict how each block will behave under stress. Their hands move with the confidence of surgeons, making minute adjustments that ensure each stone fits perfectly into its designated position. The work proceeds in shifts that follow the rhythm of the sun. The coolest hours of the morning are reserved for the most precise work, the cutting and fitting of blocks that require the steady hands and clear minds that come with rest. As the day grows hotter, the focus shifts to the heavier labor of moving and positioning stones, work that benefits from the increased strength that comes with warming muscles, but does not require the same level of precision. As the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, the pace of work intensifies. The cooling air allows for a final push, a concentrated effort to complete the day's goals, before darkness makes further work impossible. The sound of chisels on stone mingles with the work songs in a symphony of industry that can be heard for miles across the desert. The pyramid grows stone by stone, reaching ever higher toward the realm of the gods. In the pre-dawn darkness, while the rest of the pyramid site sleeps, a small group of men gather around wooden tables covered with papyrus scrolls and miniature stone models. These are the master builders, the architects and engineers who translate Imhotep's grand vision into the practical reality of stone and mortar. Their faces, weathered by years of working under the Egyptian sun, bear the concentrated expressions of men who carry the weight of the impossible on their shoulders. Khaemweset, the chief master builder, runs his finger along the precise lines of a papyrus blueprint, his touch as gentle as a scribe's, as he traces the measurements that will guide the day's work. His hands, scarred by decades of working with stone, move with the delicate precision of a surgeon. Each line on the papyrus represents not just a mathematical calculation, but a promise, a commitment that the pyramid will rise exactly as Imhotep has envisioned it, with a precision that will challenge the gods themselves. The challenge facing the master builders grows more complex with each level of the pyramid. The first tier, broad and stable, presented relatively straightforward problems of foundation and weight distribution. But as the structure rises, each new level requires increasingly sophisticated solutions. The blocks must be lifted higher, positioned more precisely, and fitted together with an accuracy that leaves no room for error. A mistake at the upper levels could bring disaster to everything below. The lifting systems represent the cutting edge of ancient technology. The master builders have developed a network of ramps that spiral around the pyramid, their gradients carefully calculated to allow teams of workers to drag the heavy limestone blocks to ever greater heights. But these are not simple earthen ramps. They are sophisticated structures in their own right, built from stone and timber, and engineered to support not just the weight of the blocks, but the dynamic forces created by the moving work teams. Saneba, the master of the lifting crews, has spent years perfecting the art of moving massive stones with limited technology. His teams use wooden levers that can multiply human strength by factors of 10, rope systems that distribute weight across multiple anchor points, and roller systems that reduce friction to manageable levels. But the real secret of his success lies not in the tools but in the coordination. The ability to synchronize the efforts of dozens of men into a single, precisely controlled movement. The positioning of each block requires the skills of a master sculptor. The limestone must be fitted so precisely that the joints between stones are barely visible, creating the illusion that the pyramid has been carved from a single massive piece of rock. The master stonemasons who oversee this work have developed an almost supernatural ability to read the stone, to understand its grain and stress points, to predict how it will behave under the enormous pressures that build up within the pyramid's structure. The mathematics involved in the pyramid's construction would challenge modern engineers. Each block must be positioned not just to fit its immediate neighbors, but to contribute to the overall stability of the entire structure. The master builders have developed complex systems for calculating load distribution, stress patterns, and structural integrity. Their tools are simple, measuring rods, plumb lines, and geometric instruments that would seem primitive by today's standards, but their understanding of the principles involved is sophisticated and precise. As the pyramid rises level by level, the master builders work with a combination of ancient wisdom and innovative problem-solving that allows them to overcome obstacles that would seem insurmountable to outsiders. When the standard lifting techniques prove inadequate for the upper levels, they develop new leverage systems. When the ramps become too steep for the existing transportation methods, they engineer roller systems that reduce the required effort. When the positioning becomes too precise for traditional methods, they create new measuring techniques that achieve accuracy measured in millimeters. Deep beneath the rising pyramid, in chambers carved from the living rock of the plateau itself, the most sacred work of the entire project unfolds in hushed whispers and flickering lamplight. Here, 90 feet below the surface, master craftsmen labor to create not just a burial chamber, but an entire underground palace where the pharaoh's spirit will dwell for eternity. The air is cool and still, heavy with the scent of fresh-cut limestone and the reverent silence of men who know they are creating something holy. The underground complex is a maze of corridors, chambers, and shafts that extend in all directions from the central burial chamber. Each passage has been planned with the precision that marks every aspect of Imhotep's design, their orientations calculated to align with celestial phenomena that will guide the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. The walls themselves are works of art, covered with hieroglyphs and relief carvings that tell the story of the pharaoh's divine nature and his destiny among the gods. Ptahhotep, the master of the underground works, moves through the chambers like a priest performing a sacred ritual. His torch casts dancing shadows on the walls, bringing the carved figures to life in the flickering light. Each chamber has its own purpose in the complex mythology of death and rebirth that governs Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. The burial chamber itself will house the pharaoh's mummified body, but the surrounding rooms will contain everything the divine king will need for his eternal existence. The excavation of the underground chambers represents an engineering challenge that rivals the construction of the pyramid above. The limestone plateau of Saqqara is solid and stable, but carving rooms and corridors beneath hundreds of thousands of tons of stone requires techniques that push the limits of ancient technology. The workers use copper tools and fire setting to cut through the rock, a process that involves heating the stone with burning wood and then rapidly cooling it with water to create fractures that can be exploited with chisels and wedges. The central burial chamber is a masterpiece of both engineering and artistry. The room is precisely oriented to the cardinal directions, its dimensions calculated according to sacred mathematical principles that reflect the harmony of the cosmos. The walls rise to a vaulted ceiling that required the most skilled stonecutters in Egypt to achieve. Each block precisely shaped to distribute the weight of the pyramid above while creating a space of breathtaking beauty. The sarcophagus that will hold the pharaoh's mummy is being carved from a single block of granite brought from the quarries of Aswan, hundreds of miles to the south. The stone itself weighs over 15 tons, and transporting it to the pyramid site required a river journey of weeks and the coordinated efforts of hundreds of workers. The carving of the sarcophagus is being done by the finest sculptors in Egypt, men whose skill with chisel and mallet borders on the supernatural. The hieroglyphic inscriptions that cover the chamber walls are more than decorative. They are a complete guide to the afterlife, a religious text carved in stone that will serve as the pharaoh's map to the realm of the gods. The scribes who design these inscriptions are among the most learned men in Egypt, masters of the complex religious symbolism that governs every aspect of Egyptian death ritual. Each hieroglyph must be perfectly formed, each inscription precisely positioned to maintain the magical effectiveness of the texts. As work on the pyramid above continues, the underground chambers near completion. The coordination between the two aspects of the project is crucial. The burial chamber must be finished and sealed before the final blocks of the pyramid are put in place. The timing requires a level of project management that would challenge modern construction companies, all accomplished with nothing more sophisticated than papyrus records and human memory. The pyramid has risen 40 feet into the desert sky, its stepped silhouette beginning to dominate the plateau of Saqqara like a mountain born from human ambition. But with each new level, the challenges facing the builders multiply in ways that test the very limits of ancient engineering. The third tier of the step pyramid presents problems that have never been encountered before in human construction, demanding innovations that push the boundaries of what is possible with copper tools and human muscle. The wind becomes a factor that the master builders had not fully anticipated. At ground level, the limestone blocks remained stable during positioning, held in place by their own massive weight and the shelter provided by the surrounding landscape. But 40 feet above the plateau, the desert wind strikes the pyramid with forces that can shift a multi-ton block just enough to ruin the precise fitting that the structure requires. Seneb and his team of master masons must now work in conditions where even a gentle breeze can turn the placement of a single stone into a dangerous struggle. The ramp system that carries materials to the working levels has evolved into a massive construction project in its own right. What began as simple earthen inclines has become a complex network of stone-reinforced causeways that spiral around the pyramid like the ribs of some enormous fossil. The ramps must now support not just the weight of the limestone blocks, but the structural stresses created by the increasing height and the dynamic forces generated by the work teams hauling their loads ever higher. Kayem studies the engineering challenges from his position on the third level, his weathered hands shading his eyes as he surveys the work below. The logistics alone would overwhelm a lesser mind. Materials must be positioned at multiple levels simultaneously, work crews coordinated across vertical distances that require shouted commands and complex signal systems, and the entire operation managed with a precision that allows no room for error. A single mistake at this height could send tons of stone crashing down, destroying months of work and endangering the lives of hundreds of workers. The lifting systems have reached the limits of their mechanical advantage. The wooden levers that seemed so effective at ground level now strain under loads that push them to their breaking point. The rope systems require constant inspection and replacement, as the increased angles and distances put stresses on the papyrus fibers that they were never designed to handle. Innovation becomes a matter of survival, as the traditional techniques prove inadequate for the unprecedented challenges of high-level construction. The solution comes from an unexpected source: the boat builders of the Nile. Their experience with complex rigging systems provides inspiration for new lifting techniques that combine multiple mechanical advantages into systems of remarkable efficiency. Compound lever systems, incorporating fulcrums and counterweights, allow relatively small teams to move blocks that would have required hundreds of men using traditional methods. Pulley systems, adapted from ship rigging, change the direction of force application and reduce the effort required to raise stones to the working level. The precision required for positioning blocks at the third level exceeds anything attempted in previous construction. The accumulated weight of the pyramid below means that each new stone must be placed with absolute accuracy. Even a small misalignment can create stress concentrations that propagate through the structure, potentially causing catastrophic failure. The master masons develop new measuring techniques, using plumb lines and water levels to achieve tolerances measured in the width of a papyrus sheet. Despite all the challenges, the third level continues to rise. Each day brings new problems and new solutions, as the master builders and their crews adapt to conditions that no human has ever faced before. The pyramid grows higher, defying gravity and convention, carried upward by the determination of men who refuse to accept that anything is impossible when divine will meets human ingenuity. As the first pale light of dawn touches the eastern edge of the plateau, the workers' village below the pyramid stirs to life with the gentle sounds of a community awakening. This is not the harsh cacophony of forced labor, but the soft murmur of families beginning their day. Children laughing as they splash in the communal water basins, women grinding grain for the morning bread, men sharpening their tools and discussing the day's challenges with the easy camaraderie of skilled craftsmen. The village itself is a marvel of ancient urban planning. Its mud brick houses arranged in neat rows, with wide streets that allow for the easy movement of people and supplies. Each home is modest but comfortable, with thick walls that provide cool shelter from the desert heat, and small courtyards where families can gather in the evening to share meals and stories. These are not the hovels of slaves, but the well-planned residences of valued workers whose skills are essential to the greatest construction project in human history. Kenti awakens before sunrise, as he has every day for the past 3 years since joining the pyramid workforce. His hands, calloused from handling rope and stone, move with practiced efficiency as he prepares for another day of moving the massive limestone blocks that will become part of the pharaoh's eternal resting place. But Kenti is no slave. He is a free man, a skilled hauler whose expertise in moving heavy loads has earned him a place among the elite work crews that handle the most challenging aspects of pyramid construction. The morning meal is a communal affair in the workers' village, with families gathering around low tables to share bread, beer, and the dried fish that forms a staple of the pyramid workers' diet. The food is plentiful and nutritious. The pharaoh's administrators understand that building the pyramid requires strong, healthy workers who can maintain their strength throughout the years-long construction process. The workers eat well, better than many farmers in the Nile Valley. Their diet supplemented with meat from the royal herds and vegetables from gardens maintained specifically for the pyramid workforce. Nebet tends to her husband Kenti and their 2 young children with the quiet efficiency of a woman who has learned to manage a household in the unique environment of the pyramid village. She works part-time in the communal kitchens, helping to prepare the massive quantities of food required to feed thousands of workers. Her labor, like that of all the women in the village, is voluntary and compensated. The pyramid project depends on the willing cooperation of entire families, not just individual workers. The children of the pyramid village live in a world unlike any other in ancient Egypt. They play among the limestone blocks, their games incorporating the tools and techniques they see their parents using every day. The boys fashion miniature pyramids from sand and pebbles, competing to see who can build the tallest structure. The girls weave reed baskets and create dolls from scraps of linen, learning the domestic skills they will need as adults. For these children, the construction of an eternal monument is simply the backdrop of normal childhood. The work crews assemble as the sun rises, their organization reflecting the sophisticated management systems that Imhotep has developed for the project. Each crew is a blend of specialists, experienced haulers like Kenti, skilled masons who can fit stones with hair's breadth precision, apprentices learning the techniques that will serve them throughout their careers, and foremen who coordinate the complex choreography of pyramid construction. The crews are stable, their members working together for months or years, developing the trust and understanding that allows them to handle massive stones with surprising safety. The work itself is hard but not brutal. The pyramid project operates on the principle that skilled workers perform better when they are well treated and properly motivated. The work songs that coordinate the crew's efforts are not just functional, they are expressions of pride in the work, celebrations of the achievement that grows larger each day. The workers understand that they are not just building a tomb, but creating a wonder of the world that will stand as a testament to their skill for thousands of years. The noon break provides relief from the desert heat and an opportunity for the workers to rest and socialize. They gather in the shade of temporary shelters, sharing water from large pottery jars and discussing the progress of the work. The conversations reveal the deep interest that the workers take in the project. They debate construction techniques, suggest improvements to the work procedures, and speculate about the challenges that will come with the higher levels of the pyramid. As the sun sets over Memphis, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold, Kenti knows that tomorrow will bring the first day of forever. The step pyramid of Saqqara will rise, and with it, humanity will take its first bold step toward the stars. The workers sleep the deep sleep of the satisfied, their dreams filled with visions of the pyramid, rising ever higher toward the star-filled sky. The pyramid has reached its penultimate level, standing nearly 170 feet above the Saqqara Plateau, like a man-made mountain that catches the first light of dawn and holds it in its limestone faces until the last moments of dusk. From the village below, the structure appears almost complete, its stepped silhouette so familiar now that it seems to have always been part of the landscape. But for the workers and master builders who labor on its highest levels, the final stage of construction presents challenges that will test everything they have learned during the long years of building. The summit level, the capstone that will crown the pharaoh's eternal resting place, requires a level of precision that pushes ancient Egyptian engineering to its absolute limits. Each of the final blocks must be cut and positioned with tolerances measured in fractions of inches. Their placement coordinated in 3 dimensions with an accuracy that would challenge modern construction techniques. The margin for error is non-existent. A single misaligned stone at this level could create stress concentrations that threaten the structural integrity of the entire pyramid. Imhotep himself spends his days on the upper levels now, his weathered hands checking measurements and his trained eye evaluating every aspect of the work. The architect who began this journey as a young man with an impossible dream has become the gray-haired master of the greatest construction project in human history. His papyrus scrolls, worn smooth by years of handling, contain not just the original plans but thousands of modifications and refinements developed during the actual construction process. The lifting systems that carry the final blocks to the summit represent the ultimate evolution of ancient Egyptian engineering. The ramps now spiral up the pyramid's exterior like a massive stone ribbon, their surfaces worn smooth by the passage of countless sledges bearing their precious cargo. The final blocks must be raised nearly 200 feet above ground level, a height that requires lifting systems of unprecedented complexity and mechanical advantage. The work crews that handle the summit construction are the elite of the pyramid workforce, master craftsmen selected for their skill, experience, and ability to work under the extreme conditions of high-altitude construction. These men have spent years perfecting their techniques, developing an almost supernatural ability to read the behavior of stone under stress and predict how massive blocks will respond to the forces applied to them. Their hands move with the confidence of surgeons, making minute adjustments that ensure perfect alignment, despite the challenging working conditions. The capstone that will crown the pyramid is a block of unprecedented significance. This single stone, positioned at the very apex of the structure, will complete the pharaoh's stairway to the heavens and transform the pyramid from an unfinished construction project into a perfect monument to divine kingship. The capstone is cut from the finest limestone available, its surfaces polished to a mirror-like finish that will catch and reflect the light of the sun and stars. The ceremony surrounding the placement of the capstone involves the highest levels of Egyptian society. Pharaoh Djoser himself climbs the ramps to witness the completion of his eternal resting place, his presence lending divine authority to the moment when human ambition achieves its ultimate expression. The priests of Memphis perform elaborate rituals that sanctify the completed pyramid and ensure the pharaoh's successful journey to the afterlife. The actual placement of the capstone is a moment of breathtaking precision and pageantry. The massive stone, weighing nearly 5 tons, must be positioned with an accuracy measured in finger widths, its orientation aligned with the cardinal directions to within minutes of arc. The lifting and positioning require the coordinated efforts of the most skilled workers on the project, their movements synchronized with the precision of a religious ceremony. As the capstone settles into its final position, a profound silence falls over the pyramid site. The workers, from the highest master builder to the newest apprentice, understand that they are witnessing the completion of something that will outlast civilizations. The pyramid stands complete, its stepped silhouette reaching toward the sky with the confidence of a structure built for eternity. The completion rituals continue for days as the various communities that have grown up around the pyramid project celebrate their achievement. The workers who have spent years moving stone and mixing mortar finally see their labor transformed into something permanent and beautiful. The master builders who solved impossible problems and overcame unprecedented challenges take quiet satisfaction in seeing their innovations become part of a structure that will challenge future generations to understand how it was accomplished. The desert wind carries no sound across the Saqqara Plateau as the last torch is extinguished in the completed pyramid. The great construction site, which for decades pulsed with the rhythm of human labor and echoed with the songs of workers, has fallen into a silence as profound as eternity itself. The step pyramid of Djoser stands alone now, its limestone faces gleaming like polished bone in the starlight, a monument not just to a pharaoh's dream of immortality, but to humanity's first successful attempt to build a structure that could truly challenge time itself. The transformation is breathtaking. Where once thousands of workers moved in coordinated patterns, like the cells of a vast organism, now only the pyramid remains, its stepped silhouette rising against the star-filled sky with the majesty of a mountain born from divine inspiration. The ramps that spiraled around its exterior have been dismantled, their stones recycled for other projects or returned to the quarries from which they came. The workshops and storage areas have been cleared away, leaving no trace of the massive infrastructure that made the pyramid's construction possible. From the valley below, where the Nile flows with its eternal rhythm, the pyramid appears to have always existed, as permanent and unchanging as the desert itself. The farmers working in the irrigated fields pause in their labors to gaze up at the monument that has transformed their landscape, understanding instinctively that they are looking at something unprecedented in human achievement. Children born since the pyramid's completion will grow up in a world where such monuments exist, never knowing the wonder and impossibility that their parents witnessed during the years of construction. The legacy of the Step Pyramid extends far beyond its physical presence on the plateau. In workshops throughout Egypt, master builders study papyrus copies of Imhotep's plans, learning the techniques and innovations that made the pyramid possible. The engineering solutions developed during its construction, the sophisticated lifting systems, the precise stone-cutting methods, the complex logistics of coordinating thousands of workers, become the foundation for future building projects that will push the boundaries of human achievement even further. The pyramid villages that house the workers have evolved into permanent settlements, their inhabitants carrying forward the specialized skills developed during the construction years. The children who grew up playing among limestone blocks have become master craftsmen themselves, their intimate familiarity with stone and mortar making them the most sought-after builders in Egypt. The knowledge gained from building the Step Pyramid spreads throughout the kingdom like ripples on the Nile, influencing architecture and engineering for generations to come. In the royal court at Memphis, young pharaohs study the legacy of Djoser with a mixture of admiration and ambition. They see in the Step Pyramid not just a tomb, but a statement of royal power that transcends death itself. Plans begin to take shape for even greater monuments, pyramids that will be larger, more precisely built, more perfectly geometric. The Step Pyramid has proven that the impossible is merely difficult, that human beings can indeed build structures worthy of the gods. Imhotep himself has become something more than an architect. His success with the pyramid has elevated him to the status of a sage, a man whose wisdom encompasses not just building techniques, but the deeper mysteries of mathematics, medicine, and the divine order that governs the universe. His name is spoken with reverence throughout Egypt, and his innovations in pyramid construction are studied as carefully as sacred texts. Future generations will remember him not just as the builder of the first pyramid, but as the man who showed humanity how to reach toward the heavens. But perhaps the most profound legacy of the Step Pyramid lies in its transformation of human consciousness. Before Djoser and Imhotep, the tallest structures built by human hands were modest affairs, limited by the belief that mortals should remain humble before the gods. The Step Pyramid shattered those limitations, proving that human ambition, properly directed and skillfully executed, could create monuments that rivaled the works of nature itself. It changed forever humanity's understanding of what was possible. The pyramid stands now in the eternal present, its limestone faces weathering slowly under the desert sun, but maintaining their essential form across the centuries. Sandstorms come and go, leaving their mark in the fine scratches that accumulate on the stone surfaces. The occasional earthquake tests the structural integrity that Imhotep built into the design, But the pyramid remains standing, its foundation solid, its geometry intact. Centuries pass and the pyramid witnesses the rise and fall of dynasties, the coming of new peoples and new ideas to the land of Egypt. It sees the construction of the Great Pyramids at Giza, monuments that surpass it in size and geometric perfection, but that would never have been possible without the innovations pioneered at Saqqara. It watches as writing systems evolve, as art styles change, as the very language spoken in the Nile Valley transforms beyond recognition. But the Step Pyramid endures, its message unchanged across the millennia. It speaks to every generation that encounters it of the power of human imagination, of the possibility of transforming dreams into permanent reality, of the eternal human desire to create something that will outlast the brief span of individual life. It stands as proof that the partnership between divine inspiration and human skill can indeed produce miracles. The desert wind continues to whisper across the Saqqara plateau, carrying with it the voices of all who labored to build the pyramid and all who have stood in wonder before it. In that whisper is the echo of work songs that coordinated the lifting of massive stones, the murmur of prayers offered by workers grateful to contribute to something eternal, the quiet satisfaction of craftsmen who knew they were creating a wonder of the world. The Step Pyramid of Djoser rests now in the embrace of eternity, its purpose fulfilled, its legacy secure. It has become what its builders always intended it to be, not just a tomb, but a bridge between earth and sky, between the mortal realm and the domain of the gods, between the fleeting present and the everlasting future. In its shadow, humanity learned to build not just for decades or centuries, but for forever. As the stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns, the pyramid stands silent and eternal, a testament carved in stone to the moment when human beings first dared to build their own stairway to heaven. And in that silence, if you listen carefully, you can still hear the echo of the impossible becoming real, one perfectly placed stone at a time. The pyramid sleeps now in the desert night, dreaming its eternal dreams of the day when mortals touched the sky and found it within their reach. And we, looking back across the centuries, can close our eyes and drift into sleep ourselves, carried by the knowledge that some achievements are so profound, so perfect in their ambition and execution, that they transform not just the landscape, but the very definition of what it means to be human. Let the pyramid's dreams become your dreams tonight, as you rest in the certainty that the impossible is simply the possible, waiting for the right combination of vision, skill, and determination to bring it to life. Sleep well, and dream of stones rising toward the stars, guided by hands that refused to accept limitations, and hearts that believed in the power of reaching toward forever.